I'm trying to live until I die. Come connect, you know it's a LUID State of Mind. Yeah, talking traveling. If you wanna fly, fitness and finance, living a better life, keep it raw, no filter, living with no limit. Thank you for tuning in. Come on, let's get it.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of LUID State of Mind. Just a quick warning that this episode covers subjects around suicide, homicide, and COVID-19. If you feel like you need help, please call 13 11 14 and talk to the Lifeline team. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy it. Guys, welcome to LUID Studios.
Thank you.
Great to see you, man. Thank you for making the trip over the Dutch for my 50th.
Not
Cheers.
Wouldn't be anywhere else.
Cheers.
Cheers to 50 years.
Great to be in Melbourne.
Man, how long have we known each other?
Since we're 5 years old.
Wow. 45 and 47 for us, isn't it? We're at
Kindergarten
kindy.
in the sand.
I reckon I've still got sand in my crack.
You probably have.
So what do you think of the studios, man? It's been a 6-month project.
It's impressive. It really is.
Yeah, really impressed actually. It looks very professional. Awesome. Really surprised as how professional it is, and you've spent a lot of money. Good on you.
Is it that obvious?
Had no idea what you're up to, eh? So
No, not a lot of
credit to
people. You know what I don't like doing? I don't like spouting off about something and then it not turning out how I expect it to be.
Which is a good way to be.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I'm more than happy, and this is what I love doing. This is hopefully what I'm going to do for a little bit longer. Talking, which is pretty ironic for a guy that doesn't like people, eh? How good is that?
Yeah, but you've always been a talker.
Oh, really? Have I?
Yeah,
Is
you
that?
have.
Yeah. I can always hold my own, can't I?
You can.
I can indeed. And of course, we've got Mav on the production desk, doing a great job. He's been fantastic.
Godson.
Yes, God, he's too. I'd forgotten about that.
I know. Keep forgetting this birthday too.
I'm the same with Quinn, so it's
I think
all
I
right.
owe him a few bucks.
Yeah. Mav, I'd hit him up for some cash after this, mate.
No, that's all right.
Prezi cards in the mail, mate.
Yeah,
Cool.
exactly. So you guys surprised me last night. Got in a day early, which
Correct.
I was very happy about because it saved me 3 hours of my life today waiting for you at the fucking airport. You know,
Yeah.
which at the moment is just chaos.
And what do we do all day, Rusty? Worked. Unpaid work.
Unpaid, yep.
What you drinking my Asahis?
True story.
Can we get onto Asahi too, please, Mav? About some sort of sponsorship deal?
Maybe.
I'm
I'll
sure
probably
there's
ignore
something.
it,
There's something in there. There's something in there.
They'll
for
be
sure.
all over it. They'll
Probably
be
give
all
me
over you.
a couple of free hats and that's it.
Hey, I'd be happy with just product Asahi beverages. Just product. That's all we need. That's all we need. Keep everybody happy. So, back in Melbourne, back to overseas travel for the first time in a little while.
Yeah.
What was it like jumping on a plane again? Well, internationally. I mean, because you've been travelling domestically.
What was it like at that end of the plane, Rusty? Was it okay? Just checking.
Did you have to turn right and he turned left?
Shout
I
out to
turned
New
right. I
Zealand.
mean, we've known each other a long time, but who really does that, They leave their friends and go and sit in business class.
They
like.
said, Glenn, there's a spare seat up here. Do you want me to bring him up? I said,
We always knew he was a dick, eh?
It's a little bit disappointed, but...
No, it was good. It was really good to see you guys. That was. I said I didn't want any surprises, and that was a good surprise.
Yeah, we
now, when
went-
you're doing a catered event, you don't want some dick turning up going surprise.
We weren't sure how you were going to take it, actually.
No,
You were either gonna cry
knew
or
you'd be
you were
right.
gonna- yeah.
I was never going to tear up for you two.
No, he teared up.
Did
No,
I?
no, we had a man hug,
Oh, as you do.
Yeah,
I look forward to my man hugs when I haven't seen my buddies.
I
for
can
a
never
while.
get those handshakes, eh? You know,
Well,
the
so you
homie-
either go for the full and hug, or you go the handshake with the shoulder.
Yeah, I smothered
Just
technique.
to. You just want to get people in your titties. Say, come here, nuzzle those bad boys. So 50 years old. Rusty's 50. You're the baby of the group. Coming up 50 in August. I should know this.
Yeah, next month in Queenstown.
Facebook is going to tell me, so I don't need to have a diary with that in, which is great. Thank you to Facebook. Yeah, 50 years.
Yeah, we've been through a lot, haven't we? You know, a lot's changed in 50 years, and
Not everyone's alive, to be fair. Not everyone's
No,
made it this far.
well, that's funny you say that, because my dad, at his 50th, I took the piss out of him. And he said, well, at least I've got to 50. And that's so true, you know. It was great. We had Mum and Dad in the podcast studio the other night. Couldn't shut that up, but it was fantastic. Found out some stuff that we didn't know about him, you know. And that's the one thing about LUID State of Mind, is the format, the long form discussion format, brings out stuff, and people pull stuff from the back of their head, and it sparks emotions and creates situations where you didn't think you were going to be in, discussion-wise. And we don't get to sit down and talk. You know, the last time we sat at the pub was probably 12 months ago together. And even then, you don't go deep. And it's not about going deep, it's just having those discussions that especially men need to have. I mean, we're not specifically targeting men, but what I'm saying is that, you know, men are the worst for talking about shit, you know?
yeah, I'd say so as well, actually.
Yeah, we all know that.
Yeah, text doesn't quite cut it, does it? You don't get to the root of everything texting people.
Oh, texting just gets taken out of context completely, you know, especially for stupid people that just don't understand, and people that use all caps. You know,
And
why are
LO
you shouting at me?
LOLs.
Why are you shouting?
Gotta stop
Are you still
doing
using the
LOL
LOL?
at the end of each text.
Who does
It's like it's like you're literally laughing out loud. Really? Was it that funny?
Neighbour just died. LOL.
Yes. Anyway, so my what I want to achieve with LUID State of Mind is just to have those discussions, and just open up those channels, and just say the stuff and ask the questions that need to be asked, and learn, because life's a journey. It's not a destination. Just learn more, understand more, and talk and communicate. So
Yeah, it's definitely a journey. You've got to play as you go and live life. Like, we all go out in a box at the end of the day, and you just got to live, you know. And
well, the one thing I've learnt at 50 years old, at this point in my life, is that it's not a test run. There's no second go at this, and I want to achieve more. I don't want to get into a rut. I don't want to do the same things. I don't want to have habits that will form my personality for the rest of my life. There's a lot of stuff that I still want to achieve. I've done a lot, and you've done a lot. We've all done a lot in 50 years, which is great. But there's still more to be done, and I'm not ready to fucking lie down yet.
oh no, 100%, you know. And you know, I know for my life, and Glen will relate to this as well. You know, my dad died at 44, so from a very young age, I've thought, oh, I'm going to die at 44, and I don't know why I had that in my head, but I did. So, you know, throughout my life, I've tried to do a lot of things to fit it in until I died at 44, which was a surprise to me at 44 when I didn't die. But
Well, see, I've got the same thing about 65. You know, 65 is the retirement age. Anything after 65, and my wife hates me saying this, is a bonus. So I have set a time limit, like you thought that you had. I've got 65, and I want to do as much as I can and achieve as much as I can up to that point. And then anything after that, that's a bonus. That's the cherry on the cake. And that's the way I'm going to live my life. And I have thought about, you know, what I do and how I do it.
oh yeah, you've got to fit things in, and you know, people listening to this, you know, life is short. It goes really fast. Get as much done as you can. Never put things off. And you know, anything worthwhile in life is never easy.
Yeah.
You know, if it's hard, it's normally worthwhile, and you get the rewards at the end of it.
Well, you know that more so than probably a lot of other people because of what you've done in your life. All right, so let's look at your resume. Part of that resume was the police force.
Correct. Yep.
How many years were you in the police force?
I did 14 years in the police.
Yep. And when did you go into the force?
1999, I joined the New Zealand Police, and yeah, it was. I had a good time while I was in there, but it was, sometimes taxing mentally. It's a very unsafe job if people looking at joining. But
Well, what made you want to go in the police force? What was the catalyst that pushed you towards the police force as opposed to something else like the Navy or the Army, or because your brother was in the Army, yeah?
yeah, he was. Yeah.
You
Initially,
originally
actually,
looked at hairdressing, didn't you?
no.
I thought you were
Hey,
going to
good
be a
call,
jockey
no.
at some stage. What happened
Yeah,
there?
but no, I don't like horses, and
You don't like
6'1". I didn't think I'd make that, but anyway. But yeah, I mean, I joined the police for the sole reason of having an adventure.
Yeah, brilliant.
You know, like I say, life's short, and I was never really a 8 to 5 sort of guy doing the same old job. So
Yep.
I wanted an adventure, and I certainly got that.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's back the truck up a bit. All right. So when you left school, what did you do when you left school?
When I left school, I became a what we call automotive machinist. So I was
That's right. I forgot.
yeah,
I forgot about that.
I was an engine reconditioner.
How long did that last?
Did that for 4 years, and knew pretty early on that was never going to be me for a career.
Yeah.
Again, 8 till 5, and
Doing the same thing
yeah,
day
same
in, day
run,
out.
yeah.
Jesus.
I was never like that, and yeah. So then I ended up going overseas. I lived in America for a year.
What were you doing over there?
I was
Don't skim.
I was-
Don't skim over.
I was wearing Lycra and racing push bikes.
There you go. A
across America.
professional cyclist or bicyclist.
Yeah. So
Bicyclist.
yeah, I didn't really work for 2 years, and yeah.
Was it? It was only 2 years overseas.
Yeah, I did a year in America and a year in Europe,
Brilliant. As a professional cyclist, paid in a team.
racing for money. Correct.
Were
But you
blood-
weren't a bicyclist, were you?
No, I was not.
Just checking. Just
I was just a cyclist.
Glenn's here for the one-liners all day.
Yeah,
people
yeah.
wanted to
Be
know.
prepared for it.
People would
Be
have been sitting here
prepared.
thinking, did he say he's a bicyclist?
Okay, well here's the tough question. Were you blood doping?
No,
Good to hear.
no.
Good to hear.
Yet to be very wealthy to do that.
Oh, was
Back
it
in those days.
Is it just about the money? Was it? You just needed the backing and the funding and the technology and the chemists and the.
Oh, look, a lot was going on. Yeah.
So if we talk about Lance Armstrong, are we in the same decade, the same era as Lance doping?
Yep.
Probably have to edit that out. But has he got any money to sue us? Has he got any left?
Probably, but I mean, I don't really want to say too much on that. I mean, it was definitely going on over there.
You knew it was
I-
happening.
I saw
so
it.
everybody. So that's the thing is like everybody in this in the fraternity knew it all. It was happening.
It was,
And it was
very
common-
well known.
Common knowledge.
Yeah.
So could
But
you compete, Russell? Not doing that? Were
Not
you
really,
still
no.
competitive?
Did you? Was it frustrating, knowing that you have done all you can do and you're going up against guys that are blood doping,
Yeah.
and you can't keep up with them, and they're
Well,
blasting.
there's not just blood doping. There's lots of.
Well, that's
drugs,
a broad,
but,
broad brush.
But yeah, you had to be pretty dedicated to do that, because at the end of the day, you know, your body's going to suffer later on in life, and it
Which
did
is-
for people over there, and that's the main reason why I ended up getting out.
So it was for health reasons.
Yeah, I just didn't want that when I hit 40 having any
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah, it's the same with like bodybuilders and that. You know, the shit they put in their system.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard
To look
sport, you know. It's
yeah.
and it's you don't really know until you're in it, but it's definitely a tough game, and you know you spend a lot of your day in pain. Is how it rolls. But
Did you enjoy it?
oh,
It
you
was an
always do
adventure.
because it's it's an
adventure.
adventure and it's a challenge, you know. And I've always been up for that. I'm always up for a challenge, and again, it comes back to anything worthwhile is never easy, and it wasn't easy,
I think
but
there's
it was worthwhile.
I think there's a T-shirt in that. I think we could.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, you guys have been to the to the merch store on the way, and I
Yeah, we
see.
have. Hey, sponsored.
Advertising billboards. eh?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm going to have to swipe your credit cards on the way out. By the way,
Hey, no problem.
nothing's free around here.
Hey, we paid for lunch.
Oh, true. Fair enough. They're on the house.
True.
Hey, so you 2 years in Europe. You come back from Europe.
No, a year in the States, a year in Europe.
Yep.
Came back and sold cars, actually.
I think you sold me one, didn't you?
I don't know, did I?
Yes, you did. You did.
Mr. Toyota.
Well, I mean, that's actually quite a unique story in itself because, I came back from overseas. I had no job and had to really start again and figure out what I wanted to do. I knew that wasn't engine reconditioning, and I knew that I wanted to, whatever I did, I wanted to work hard and earn good money. If I was just in an 8 to 5 hourly job, it didn't really matter how hard I worked, I'd still get the same money. So
Yeah, exactly.
I figured I needed to get into sales. So I figured, okay, if I can get into sales and I can work hard, I can make some good money. And it was just a natural occurrence that it happened to be cars, because I'd been an automotive machinist, so I knew cars. So I just ended up thinking, okay, I need to get in sales. I dealt with car sales.
Yep.
And ended up in that. But it was never my long-term goal to stay in there. It's a tough job. Yes, you earned good money, and at the time I think I was probably earning double what my friends were earning that were working in hourly rate jobs. But it was tough. It was a lot of work, 6 days a week, phone calls at night, very stressful. But yeah, it was good. It served a purpose.
So we talk about hard work versus reward, money. How important is money to you? Does money drive everything you do, or do you just purely understand the value of it and what it can do for you?
Oh, I think it's, over periods of my life, it's definitely driven me, because money gives you options. And the more money you have, the more options you have.
Yep.
And it's pretty much it.
Yep.
Yeah.
What about you, Glenn? How do you value money?
Oh, look, I wouldn't say I'm driven, but at the end of the day, to do what I want to do, I need money. So I work hard. I've got to where I've got to. Unfortunately, I wasn't a professional cyclist, although I know I look like one.
Well, there's no money in that.
But no,
You want to be a golfer, mate.
it's not the be all and end all. But hey, I don't want to be working till I'm 70 either.
No, exactly. We had that discussion over lunch, didn't we, about retirement and you can't take it with you, But as you say, it affords you opportunities, and we don't want to be millionaires. We don't want to be filthy rich. Although it would be nice, but it doesn't. It's not the end all be all, is it?
No, it doesn't define you. Like I say, money gives you options and allows you to have adventures and create memories, because if you don't do that,
I couldn't have said that any better, mate. That's perfect. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
It affords you those opportunities to create those memories.
Yeah. Because you're not gonna lie on your deathbed and think, man, I've got a lot of money in the bank. Who cares?
No.
What you're going to be thinking about is, man, I did all this stuff, and I try and go through life as, okay, if I died today, have I done a lot of stuff that I thought was cool, and do I feel fulfilled? And I can say that I can. I've done a lot. And
Well, a lot of people, 50, they can't. They couldn't say exactly what you just said.
No.
About having a point in your life where you go, well, if I die today, pretty happy.
Yeah. And because I always thought I was going to be dead at 44, like my dad was. I've got to fit all the stuff in.
Yeah.
And so I did. So whenever I had an opportunity to do things, I just did it. I didn't make excuses, where a lot of people do. I mean, actually anyone can find an excuse not to do something. You just have to find the reason to do something.
But you go back to your point about your dad dying, and at 10 or 11, my dad died as well.
Yeah, I remember it.
And
Yeah.
you think, shit, I could die at 44 or whatever,
Mm.
So you got 34 more years to live, you think, and then you hit 45 and you're like, shit, I'm not dead. What am I going to do now?
Yeah. Well,
It's
actually,
hard for a kid at that age.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was like that. It was like, wow, I'm not dead. That whole year when I turned 44, I was waiting. Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Really?
It wasn't until I turned 45 that.
It was playing on your mind that whole year.
Yeah.
Something's going to go down
Yep.
here. Something's going to happen.
At 45, I was like, man, I made it. I did it.
If you don't mind me asking, because I can't remember, was it a pure health issue with your father?
Yeah,
when
he
you
died of cancer.
Oh, it was cancer.
Yeah.
sometimes there's not a lot you can do in that situation, isn't it?
No, and it happens to lots of people. So
Yeah.
it's just
That's the one thing that plays in the back of my mind, and it drives me as well, is that one day you could just get up, oh, I've got a bit of a sore back. Off to the doctors, oh, you're fucking riddled with cancer. You know, and I've said it previously that I'm really acutely aware of my body. Like, I'll go to the doctors 3 to 6 months and I'll get bloods done just to make sure that my cholesterol's tracking right, nothing's going wrong, you know, white cell counts, all that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
good. You know, exercise, eat well, and try to do the best. And you realise as you get older that's got to be number one. All that stuff, that personal health stuff, mental, physical, that's got to be number one in your life, and then the rest will come. And and as I said, I'm very conscious about it. I want to make
so
sure.
am I.
Yeah.
And it's I've actually been like it all my life, really. From I started bike racing at 13, and so I was quite
Yeah,
conscious
that
of my
young.
diet.
That's right, I remember that.
Yeah, I was quite conscious of my diet and health from that age, and I've always tried to look after myself, but you never know what's going to kill you. And,
no,
and
exactly.
even if you take care of yourself, you still could get cancer, you still could have a heart attack, you still could die from whatever.
Brain clot, something stupid.
And if you do get cancer and or something like that, where you know you've got X amount of time, you can kind of get your affairs in order. But
what would you prefer? Would you prefer a time period that you knew you had left, or would you prefer it to just happen quickly?
Funny enough, I've thought about this lots, and I think I'd prefer a time frame.
Yep. So you can just sort your shit out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do anything that I needed to, or felt like I needed to do in my life.
Yep. Have you got a list? Have you got a bucket list?
Kind of, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What about you, Glenn?
Oh, I don't think I'd want to know. I think it'd mess with my head. I really do.
Having the time left?
Or knowing if you knew exactly when you were going to go or how long you had. I know it'd give you time to do things, but I think it'd mess with my head too much.
I think it depends how you look at it, though, because we all of us will die. Every single person listening to this podcast, we're all going to die at some point. Just live your life, have fun, get as much in as you can.
Live until I die.
Yeah, before it happens, because it is going to happen.
Yeah.
I think we'd all need a little bit of time. We've got to delete our browser history and clean up the sock drawer and stuff, but...
Oh, you couldn't have
There is
said
always
it
that
better,
one
mate.
friend, eh?
Couldn't have said it
One
better.
Just
friend.
going back to Russell's healthy eating, I'd just like to point out he's had 2 burgers in the last 24 hours.
Yes.
Hey,
Big
I'm on
ass
holiday.
burgers.
Yeah, that's
Hey.
fair enough. He didn't have 2 Rosties extra with his breakfast this morning because I shut him down. I
No,
said,
you
one's
had one.
enough. One's enough, mate. Come on. Let's just be sensible
You're making
about
us
this.
look bad, Rusty.
So, after the car yard, you did sell me a Toyota. I presume you did me a good deal, from what I can remember.
I would have.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're probably about the only car salesman I trust, to be quite honest. So, after Toyota, it was the police force?
Yes,
So
it was.
That's when you made the decision to go, I'm going to save the world?
Well, I wouldn't say save the world.
Just
It was,
Hastings
it was
and
more.
Blakeney.
It was more selfish, actually. It was more to have an adventure. It was. Funny enough, I never car sales was never my end game, and
It was a means to an end.
yeah, it
obviously.
was, and I hated it, to be honest. It was a lot of pressure. It was a hard gig to do, and I was always looking for something else. And it wasn't until a friend of mine who was also selling cars at the time rang me up one day and says, "Oh, I'm leaving. I'm joining the police." And I thought, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. So I looked into it.
You hadn't thought about it prior to that?
Not the police. I thought about the military. And once I thought about it and got it in my head, 10 months later I was in the police. So
Were they recruiting hard back then?
they were, but not for where I wanted to go. They were recruiting hard for Auckland at that time. To get back to where I wanted to go was a little bit tougher.
So was that a waiting process to wait to get the
Yeah.
placement that you wanted?
Yeah.
To come back to Hawke's Bay?
Yeah, you could have got in straight away, but you would have just got sent wherever they needed people.
Yep.
and I didn't want to do that, so I waited, and 10 months later I was at police college.
How long does police college last for?
Back then it was 6 months, I think.
You got some stories from there?
Not really, no.
No dorm stories? Because
Nope.
I actually went down there and saw the living situation, and just lends itself to
Pillow fights and
pillow. I can imagine Rusty having a pillow fight
So,
in his crop top.
yeah, I mean, there was a few parties and things like that, but it was
Well, of course, you put that many men and women in close proximity, and they're going to get a bit of pent up anger and anxiety and want yeah. No stories to tell there.
no, I haven't
No.
actually. Yeah, I was pretty boring.
That is. That's disappointing. So, what did we say? 4 months in the force in the college.
Nearly 6, I think it was.
6 months.
I can't actually remember, to be honest.
Posted straight back to Hastings or Napier.
Hastings, yeah.
Shock to the system.
Not really, actually.
So they prepared you for everything that you were
No,
going to experience. Did they?
no, they definitely don't. I mean, I kind of knew what I was in for because of my upbringing. I was, grew up in a, what would you call it, a lower socioeconomic area. So I kind of knew what I was in for, who I'd be dealing with, and it was absolutely no shock to me at all.
But was the training adequate? Did they do a good enough job at college
Oh, definitely
to
not.
prepare you?
No way. No, it's
You would definitely make changes, make it longer, make it more comprehensive.
well, you can't.
it's real life stuff.
Yeah, it's impossible to try and teach that. I mean, you came out of police college back then, and I don't know how it is today, but back then you came out and you knew what certain pieces of paperwork were for, but you didn't really know what they were about, or you knew you had to do something, but what it was, when you're on the street, you actually didn't know. So you learnt as you went.
Yeah.
And
So it was like an on-job training apprenticeship type scenario.
Yeah.
So
yeah, which that's just the way it is. You can't prepare anyone for the things that you're going to deal with. But on a daily basis, everything's different. Which I got my goal. It was an adventure. Let's say that.
Yeah, exactly. So is it like America? You get partnered up straight away? You've got a partner?
Oh yeah, when you first start, you do. Yeah. Well, it depends where you're going. What areas there were people that went through when I went through that ended up working by themselves straight away due to staffing and where they were rostered or where they were posted. Sorry. When I started, we were put with someone else, a more senior officer, for however long it was, 3 months, or I can't actually remember, but something along those lines. And they taught you as you went, and every hour of every day was different.
Yep. Steep learning curve. Just
yeah, pretty much.
2 feet tied together.
I remember I started on a, funny how I remember things, I started on a Wednesday night at 10 p.m. and I was working a night shift for seven days, and on night 3 I was pointing a rifle at the back door of this house. And that was a very surreal moment for me.
Wow. Can you elaborate on the situation that got you there?
I can't actually remember, to be honest, but I just remember that standing on a fence railing with a rifle pointed at a back door.
See, how much of a rush is that? Holding a firearm.
I wouldn't say it was a rush, actually. It was a very surreal situation, knowing that if a person came out of that door and that was a threat that you may have to shoot them, it was a very surreal situation.
In that situation, what's the ruling? So you can only fire if fired upon or threatened, or if somebody comes out with a steak knife, you're not going to slam them in the chest with a couple of rounds?
No, not well. I mean,
what's the rules of engagement is basically what I'm trying to say.
Well, it's if you felt like you were threatened, your life was threatened, then you could do something about it. I mean, if you came out with a bottle or a knife and you're on the other side of a fence, you weren't justified in shooting them.
Yep.
If they came out with a firearm and pointed at you, you were. So
yep.
Yeah, it depends on the situation.
And you could have shot that person?
No, because he never came out the door. He
No.
went out the front.
But you were mentally prepared to take the shot, is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, it's going back a lot of years, but I mean, yeah. If from many jobs I went to after that, things just kind of fit into place, and you kind of know.
Yeah, it's that self-preservation, isn't it?
Oh, 100%, yeah. I mean, it's like I say, it's a very surreal situation. 3 days into the police, and you're pointing a firearm at someone's door.
It's a good start, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good start. When did you see your first dead body? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do,
sure
actually.
you've got to remember that.
Yeah, I saw that in training, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my first dead body was you used to go back to your home station for 2 weeks, I think it was, and did a ride along and just kind of watched and learnt, and that's when I saw my first dead body, which was a hanging.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
In a home, in somebody's home.
No, that was actually at the mortuary. He'd another police unit had brought them back to the mortuary, and we did what we used to call back then mortuary procedure, which.
Okay, so do you remember your first murder investigation?
No, I don't remember them in order. I've seen a lot, seen between 250 and 300 dead people.
It's a lot.
In 14 years. And I can't remember the order, and most things just, I try and put them to the back of my head, and sometimes people will say something and it will trigger a memory about a certain death.
Do you see faces?
Do you see dead people?
Well, he sees dead
That's what you
people.
wanted to say.
Yeah. Does that haunt you?
Not really. No.
As you say, you just block it out.
Yeah. I mean, there's always ones that you remember. There's most people, it's just a body. You don't know them. There's no attachment. There's nothing. There's no feeling. I mean, gory ones are obviously not very pleasant. But I mean, it's definitely a different story. I've had 2 that I've turned up to car accidents, and I knew the people, and
man.
that's a different story.
So did they teach you to departmentalise that sort of stuff?
Not back then. They didn't know.
Was there?
Do they now? I couldn't tell you.
Was there psych help at the station? Was all those services afforded to you?
Back then, no.
That would have still been just harden up and carry on, wouldn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. And to be honest, most cops of that era wouldn't have wanted that. I think in my whole police career, I had to see a psych twice, and both of those were compulsory.
Did it work? Did it help?
No.
Just a
it was
waste
just
of
a
time?
formality that you just went through to carry on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is just harden the fuck up.
Well,
then.
it's
Just pack it.
It was that's just the way it was. There's no criticism there. That's just the way it was.
Yep.
I mean, that's probably changed nowadays.
I'd hope so.
They're probably more aware of it.
Yeah.
But also in saying that, there's probably not a lot of cops nowadays do that long on front line. So
What do you mean by frontline? We're talking about the first responders. You're talking.
Yeah.
So you're the first car that turns up to the nasty shit.
Yeah.
You're not just writing parking tickets and doing people for jaywalking.
No, frontline can be that as well, but frontline is your first responders. You call 111 and you've got a situation. The people that turn up, and whatever that is, whether it's a death or a domestic or a robbery or an assault or a fight, whatever it is, they are people first on the scene.
And New Zealand cops don't have guns. Some have guns, or they do have guns now, because when you're in the force.
Back then, I mean, the New Zealand police is still an unarmed police force. Generally,
I think it's only New Zealand and England are about the only places that do that, isn't it?
Yeah, there's not many.
Yeah.
But they were available to you. Probably not depends on what's happening. If someone's shooting at you, you're probably shit out of luck. You're probably dead. But
So did you want to be armed if you had the choice?
that's actually quite a tough question because it depends on the training. I don't think there's enough training for police officers to carry firearms full time.
Because I guess the worry is that if someone takes your firearm off you,
Correct.
they've then got a
Yep.
firearm.
Yep.
I
I mean, if you're trained well enough, definitely.
as you say, training is always going to be lacking in anything, and especially in the police force.
Yeah, there's cost involved in training, so of course,
Exactly.
and that's what they weigh up is cost versus,
Exactly.
you
I still freak
other
out
things.
when I see cops here with their sidearms, and you'll be walking behind them, and you think that, like, how easy would it be to unclip it and take his
There's a
take his
actual
sidearm?
there's a holster on the guns that you have to slide to, I think, their forward or their back and then pull up, so you
Correct.
can't just
Yeah.
Oh, so you can't.
flip out.
No, they
Okay.
Well,
actually.
Well, not that I was ever going to do that.
Yeah,
but thanks for
but-
the heads up.
Yeah. Also, New Zealand police only special units carry guns, like ones at airports and all that with dogs.
Mav's actually doing his job. He's online. You're actually paying attention.
Well
Thank
done,
you.
Mav.
Yeah,
well
this
done,
is
Mav.
actually an interesting conversation.
It is. That's
Yeah,
what
one
LUID's
that-
all about, buddy.
One that I don't have to tune out for.
So, you've seen some shit. You've dealt with a lot of stuff. For you personally, over the start of your career, what was the point in your career where you said, fuck, what I've just seen or what's happened is just too much, or it's just a sensory overload, and you've just got to completely shut off and shut down? And
Yeah, I don't think there was one particular moment. I think it builds up on you. So I am naturally quite a curious person. So for me, when I first joined, I was quite curious to see a dead person, and it was interesting at first. And you get to see all sorts of things, from someone dying naturally in their sleep to a very gory deaths. But towards the end, I had enough, and I knew I just went to work one day and I went to a sudden death, and I thought from that time I don't want to see this anymore.
that was the
And
catalyst.
that was the switch.
Yep.
And I was just like, I've had enough. But like I say, that was probably 250 or 300 dead people later. But yeah, I think it does definitely take its toll on people.
I don't know how it wouldn't. I mean, mentally, it doesn't matter how hard you are externally or physically. Mentally, that stuff's just got to grind you fucking down. You know?
Yeah.
And you can only shut so much out. And if you're not talking about it or not dealing with it, it's going to compound.
I mean, you do talk about it with say in your group that you're working with, and a lot of people say if they weren't in the police listening to a police conversation, there's a lot of black humour, there's a lot of that sort of talk that goes on, and I have seen it before where a group of police officers are talking, and there's someone in the room that's non-police that is just horrified at our conversations, where that's just us dealing with it. And
Yep.
yeah, I mean some of the stuff is pretty bad, and yeah,
There's a lot of, from what I've heard and what I can gather, there's a lot of joking, there's a lot of
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
carrying on like that, the pranks you used to play on each other. That's a coping mechanism.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty tough job. And, I think even nowadays, anyone that's in the police on the front line is, it's a very dangerous job, and it's getting worse and worse with all the drug epidemics that are out there.
Yeah,
So-
the landscape's changed from when you're in the force,
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
and it's mainly to do with drugs
Yeah.
and the amount of drugs. And you're
Yep.
turning up to a job where somebody's on whatever, and you don't know how they're going to react.
Oh, 100%.
And they're 10 foot tall and they're bulletproof because
Yep.
of what they've consumed.
Yeah. And it was definitely, happening when I was there, but it's, probably 100 times worse now. And you know, anyone that joins the police, no one wants to go to work and think about getting killed, but fuck, they've got to think about it nowadays because it's pretty rough out there.
It always staggers me that now, you start a job and you're not allowed to use a box cutter because you might cut your finger. You guys are out there with druggies and people with firearms and people wanting to run you over. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
you don't get paid enough.
And the lack of respect from the community.
Yeah.
Oh,
totally.
the community has no idea what a police officer deals with
But
day in
that
day
lack of
out.
respect's from a certain amount of people. There are a lot of people that respect cops. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but when you are on the front line, you don't actually see that because they're not the people you're dealing with. So you're dealing with predominantly people that hate the police day in, day out. And actually, it wasn't. For me, everyone you ever spoke to hated the police, except for obviously victims and things like that. But being a frontline cop, most people you dealt with just hated you. And it actually wasn't till many years later when we had the Napier siege that went on, and there was parades afterwards, and Napier City came out and was clapping as we marched down the street, and that was the first time I actually, in my whole police career, that I thought, wow, there are people that like the police out there.
Did it make you feel proud?
At that time, yeah.
You talked about the Napier siege. I said I wanted to touch on it. Do you want to talk any more about it? Is it something that you want to discuss?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Tell me how the day started then. When was it?
Well, for anyone listening out there, on the 7th of May 2009, there was a police shooting in Napier, one of my colleagues was killed and two others were injured by gunshots, and it ended up in a 51-hour siege. At the time, I was on the armed defenders squad, and went to that job. And
so how did the day start off for you? What was your day like?
For me, I was working at my other job, which was unrelated to the police, and we, being on AOS, we used to have pages, and for those people listening, AOS stands for Armed Offenders Squad.
So basically the SWAT, it's a New Zealand version of SWAT.
Yeah.
You've got all the tactical gear, you roll up in the big black vehicles, and you've got the shit to take these dicks down.
Well, kind of like that. We didn't have the black vehicles, but...
Oh, really?
Balaclavas.
Yeah.
You still see it's Russell. You see his eyes, I'm like, there's Russell.
Apparently you could. So my pager went off. We used to have a code that used to come over, so there was several codes meaning how serious things were. And the code that came over was the most serious code.
You're not going to divulge that code? It wasn't like a code brown or anything like that?
Definitely wasn't a code brown.
It's another story.
I think they run a different system now, so it's probably irrelevant. But
yeah.
But I knew that code when it came through. There was something serious going on.
Did you?
Not really, because that was just kind of a routine job. That's what our role was. We were called out to that sort of stuff.
But did you get it? Did you get a little bit of a tingle?
No, I didn't until. So it was how it played out in the years before that. If you got that code come through, it would come through once, and that was it. And so you just head on.
Gear up.
Yep. Head on in and gear up. That day there, the code came through, and then about 2 or 3 minutes later, it came through again. And at that time, anyone could call you out. So you could have got called out by the police station, you could have got called out by the communication centre, or one of the bosses. So for it to go off twice, I knew something bad was happening.
Yeah.
And so when I arrived at the station, I was told that one of the guys that I knew had been shot and killed but it wasn't the guy that actually was shot and killed. So they'd got the wrong name, and then we headed on in. We were kind of briefed quickly when we got there, and then moved to our positions.
So you're obviously reacting to what initially happened with the police officer getting shot. Can you tell us what happened leading up to him being shot?
Yeah, there was a minor search warrant just for cannabis plants, just a routine minor job. 3 police officers have gone to this house.
Is 3 normal for something like that?
Depends. Could be, might not be. Depends on the situation.
What time of the morning was it?
That was about 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
At that time, the offender wasn't home. His partner was. So she'd let them into the house. They were searching, and he came home.
Why they were mid-search?
While they were mid-search, and I don't know the actual circumstances inside the house, what happened, but at some point he's managed to get a firearm, ordered them out of the house, and when they've got to the footpath, that's when he's shot.
In the back, did they know it was coming? Were they facing the offender?
Yep. So yeah, one officer was shot and killed, and then
Instantly?
Yeah, I do know, but I don't really want to say. But
Yeah.
And then the offender's gone out, and as the other 2 have been running, he's shot both of them as well. And also at the house was a member of the public, and he tried to wrestle the gun off him, and he got shot. So there was 4 people that ended up getting shot.
Sorry, who was wrestling the gun?
It was actually a friend of his who had turned up at the house.
That was in their house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he got shot.
Yeah.
But there was only 1 fatality out of those 4 victims.
Correct. Yep.
And he was a good friend of yours.
Yeah.
was colleague?
I knew all of them.
Knew him well.
Yeah.
And you're a tight unit, obviously.
Yeah. Out of the 3 that were shot, 2 of them were on our AOS squad. So yeah, I knew all of them. Yeah.
Okay, how long between the shootings and you turning up? What sort of time period are we looking at?
25, 30 minutes.
And within that time, the offender's just boarded himself up into the house. He's just. Do you know what was going on?
All as I can tell you, is that when I got there, we didn't know where he was. So you were walking up that hill, with what we used to say. That you could feel the hairs standing up on the back of your neck, because you just did not know if you were going to get shot in the back or from the front, the side. You just had no idea where he was. And I can't. We're going back 12 years now, but
So the gear that you're wearing, could you take a shot?
Oh, depends what
it hit
caliber
you,
bullets
yeah.
and where you were shot, but you wouldn't want to get shot. No.
So the victims, the 4 victims, are they still lying where they're shot? Are they?
One had managed to get out, and one we didn't know where he was when we first got there. And I was actually, me and two other AOS members were told that we were to be a team to. We were initially told that one of the guys that had been shot was in the driveway of the house, and that we were going to have to go in and get him. But then, as it transpired, as we were formulating our plan, a member of the public rang up and said that he was in her house, the next house over, and that we needed to get in there quickly because he was bleeding out. And at first we were tasked to do that, but it meant going past the house where the offender was, so that ended up happening by guys that were up the top of a hill, because this whole thing happened on the side of a hill.
So we're talking about a residential area on the top of a hill in Napier, and we've got one side of the road, we've got the victim, the perpetrator's home. What's on the other side of the road? More houses?
No, so the other side of the road was a hill and a cemetery. and I can't remember the actual sequence of events, but at some stage I went up to the cemetery to see if we had any cover and to see if I could see which one the house was. We knew the number, but we didn't know which houses were which.
Yeah.
So I went up into the cemetery and found out I could see that we had 2 of our snipers up there, and I went to talk to one of them and asked, hey, which is the house? And he said, I don't know. It's one of those 2. And at some point he started shooting, which most people would think that would actually freak you out, but it was quite a surreal situation then, because it was
you knew where he was.
It was a relief, because now we knew where he was.
Yeah.
Where before that you didn't know if you were going to get shot in the back. Where now, it was actually, it was a relief. Oh, okay, he's there.
When he started shooting,
Yeah.
what was he shooting at? Was he specifically targeting people?
Well, yeah, definitely. Yeah, he was shooting at us. Yeah.
Up on the hill in the cemetery, you and the 2 snipers? He was shooting at you?
Yep, we couldn't see him.
So could you see the bullets hitting the ground?
Not at that stage, no. But later on, I could see a few things. You could hear them buzzing past your head. But
That's got to be surreal, man.
Yeah, they ended up making a movie about it, and the movie is very factual, but it only shows. On that day there was about 100 and I'm just going off memory here. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was 181 rounds were shot. And every one of those rounds had a story behind it, and the movie covered off the facts as to what happened, but it only showed a very few of those actual gunshots. There was a lot more that happened that day, but obviously they can't get all of that, and it's got to be condensed down to however long the movie is, 2 hours or whatever.
What was the caliber of the rifle? What was he shooting?
At first he was shooting with a 223 or in metric a 5.56 millimeter. So it was a mini 14 rifle, and then he later changed to an SLR, which fires a 308 round. And
that's a big round. I'm not a gun guy.
Yeah.
That's a big round.
Oh yeah. You could tell the difference.
Just by the sound.
Oh yeah. Those rounds, coming towards you. When you fire a gun, it's loud. When they come in towards you, totally different sound.
Is it a whistle? Is it like a?
Oh, it depends where it's going. It's just I can't even describe it. It's not a nice feeling. It depends how close they are. They whistle. I mean, some of them are hitting trees. Branches above us. Depends. 'Cause like I say, it was a long day, and that first day anyway. But
were you scared, or there was just too much adrenaline? Did you stop and think and go, "Fuck, I'm in a dire situation here. Some guy's potting shots, and I could be next." Is that what's going through your head?
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. You didn't know if you were coming home at the end of that day. That was 100% the feeling. It was a pretty it was a rough time, and any guys in the military that go through that sort of stuff on a day in day out basis, well, you got to take your hat off to them, and I don't think people actually appreciate what they do. After being through a little snippet like that, and these guys are in full combat. They've been through a lot.
Do you think it's something that you just get used to if you're in their situation?
Yep.
It's experiencing what you've experienced.
Yeah, I think it's like anything in life. If you deal with a certain situation at whatever level that is, and in whatever circumstance, you become accustomed to that level and become more resilient. So, and I know for me, say in that situation, after going through, say that job, whenever we got called out on jobs after that maybe previously to the siege you might have been nervous, or your heart rate might have been up.
Apprehensive.
Yeah. After that, there was no. I don't even think my heart rate went up.
You just hardened. You just
got to one level, and then you were at that level.
Is that a bad thing though, or a good thing?
Well, it's a coping
I
mechanism.
think it's just a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And you know, it was actually quite interesting that day because, you know, you did a lot of training over the years before that, and you always thought, you know, why are we doing this? This is such a waste of time, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you were in a situation like that, it all comes together and you're like, okay, that's why we did this training. So,
and it all just clicks in.
Yeah,
it all just
yep,
boom. And that's the beauty about good training, isn't it?
Yeah. So anyone out there looking at doing, you know, wondering why your people in whatever industry you're doing are training you in a certain way, there's reasons why. So just follow it.
Exactly. Now you commented about not thinking that you may not come home. Was there a chance during that day, because it was over the course of 2 days, wasn't it? Day and a half.
Yeah, I mean, we were there first, and other squads from around New Zealand got called in. Some drove, some came in helicopters to bolster our positions, and then also relieve us.
Was there any point during that, when you were on duty, that you stopped and picked up your phone and called your family, or it didn't even come into your head?
Yep, I did. Yep. I made a phone call saying, I might not be home tonight at all. So, but I think a lot of guys did that. You know, it was pretty intense, and every single person that was there, you know, has their own story. And even in the years after, you know, you only found out bits and pieces of what happened as people talked about it. And, you know, like say years later, you'd be like, oh wow, I didn't realise that had happened, because a lot went on. You know, there was, you know, in our squad at the time there was 16 of us, and, you know, 2 were out because they'd been shot, and so that left 14 of us, and every single one of those 14 was shot at, has their own stories. So much happened that day. It was pretty full on.
So, do you remember what time you turned up in the morning? Do you remember? Is it etched in your memory? The time? Did you look at your watch and go, "This is when shit's getting real"?
I did, but I can't tell you what that time was now.
How long?
But it was about 25 or 30 minutes after the shootings happened.
How long were you on duty for before you were relieved?
So I can't actually remember what time we were pulled out of there. We had to, when other staff arrived from other areas, we got replaced maybe 12, 14 hours later. And then we had to go back, and we had statements taken, and then did a whole lot of things like that. And I don't think I got home till 2 a.m. And then the next day, I think we had to do psych tests to see if we were eligible to go back in.
Fit for service? Yeah.
Yep.
Jesus, did you even sleep that night?
Could you sleep?
Unaided?
I actually can't remember. It was all kind of a blur.
You didn't go home, crack a beer and go, fuck?
No.
You just numb? Were you numb? You just...
I don't know. I remember I was really tired, and we hadn't eaten... I used to carry a camelback, and it's quite ironic actually, because every day before that job, after each other job, I'd fill the camelback ready for the next job, and I hadn't filled it. That was the only job I went to that I hadn't filled the camelback, so I had no water. So that was that was a bit rough.
Mav, you see why I always tell you to fill the camelbacks up? Can you see?
Yep, I see clearly now.
Definitely fill the camelback.
So, did you say the siege was 51 hours from...
Yeah, going off memory, I think it was 51 hours, yeah.
So you went back in the morning? You were called back?
No, we were rostered back on for the next night shift. So we started at about 10.
And it was all done and dusted?
At the time, no. They used some... the army came in and used some labs, which were like armoured vehicles, and they used robots to use explosives to blow the doors off the garage so they could get into the house.
his partner was in the house the whole time?
Oh, yeah.
You said there was a female.
Yeah, she got out at some stage. I couldn't tell you when. That was
Escaped
earlier
or-
on in the first day.
Escaped or let out?
I don't actually know, to be fair. I did know, but I just can't remember. I think she voluntarily left.
Can you tell us how it all ended?
Yeah, well, it ended with him killing himself. He shot himself in the head. That's how it ended. And I mean, the police had a fair idea that that's what had happened, and an entry team went in and confirmed that.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was yeah.
Took the easy way out.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was a needless, needless for him, needless for, the officers that were shot and one that was killed. It was just a waste of time. In reality, he would have got maybe a $700 fine.
Mm.
And what ended up happening was he, took a police officer's life, shot 3 other people that will always remember that and always have injuries from it, and then ultimately killed himself. So he's affected all those people's lives for what?
It's senseless, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
just completely senseless.
Mm.
Unbelievable, man.
Was.
I mean, an experience like that's always gonna be with you, but it's gonna shape you as you go on in life. As you say, the experience harden you for other situations that you were facing as well. Was that one of the most dire situations you've ever been in your police career?
That was up there. And I've had a few experiences of near death, or when I thought I was going to die. I've had a shotgun pointed at me at point blank range. I thought I was dead that day, but survived to tell the tale. And I've had a guy try and stab me in a kitchen. So anyone looking at joining the police out there, hey, it's a dangerous job. Look out.
Well, the kitchen's a dangerous place to be, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, the lounge is probably a little bit safer.
Mm.
A little bit safer.
But honestly, anyone that joins the police, if you go in thinking you're not going to get assaulted, you're naive, because you will. I've been hit with steel bars, I've been punched, I've been kicked, been shot at. People try and stab me. It's
That was just this morning.
yeah, it was just with these guys, But yeah, so it is a tough job. So head off to all the people still doing it, because it's got crazy out there.
Yeah, exactly. And NZ particularly, culturally, politically, the environment's, it's completely different to when we were kids.
I would say any country really where you've got a pee epidemic or any drugs like that is going off the rails. Depends on how much each government's spending on policing, and whether they're hard on criminals or not will really dictate it. I personally don't think New Zealand does, but hey.
What's your stance on drugs? Is it just there's no tolerance with it? Just from what you've seen and what it does to people, it's surely got to... Yeah?
I mean, I personally think, pee is an epidemic. It's it makes people go crazy. It's it rots you from the inside out. It's not a good thing. I think it's probably the worst drug that society's ever faced. And you had your people taking LSD and heroin and coke and all that sort of stuff, during the last 40, 50 years, whatever it is. And but yeah, pee is a massive epidemic. It's it's highly addictive. It just basically rots you from the inside out. Can turn you into a crazy person. And
is it cheap? I wouldn't know.
No, I don't know actually. Yeah,
it's obviously accessible.
Oh,
Why do you think New Zealand's got such a bad drug problem with pee?
Well, I don't know the stats on any other country, so I don't actually know if that's the case or not. I don't know what Australia's like. It's probably, like I say, in most countries, and the gangs will peddle it because they make a lot of money out of it.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, it's about making money, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
It's exactly what it's all
Yeah.
about.
So
What's your stance on drugs, Glenn? Don't
Well,
do drugs?
I'm not going to have any today.
I was just going to say, you look a little bit down. You obviously...
I might need the little blue ones at some stage, but no, it's never done anything for me. Never been a smoker. Just it hasn't spun my wheels, and I'm probably lucky. I know people that have been addicted, so.
Well, we've had mates that haven't made their 18th birthday. Yeah, and they've died in their parents' garage sniffing petrol.
yeah.
It's just fucking sad.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What I don't understand is there were drugs around when we grew up. There was cannabis. I've experienced or experimented with it. Once again, it doesn't do anything for me. It just makes me sleepy. But I don't understand how these kids just smoking cannabis went from that to basically going crazy and ending up in psych wards. And it's just from cannabis. It wasn't from anything else. There wasn't heroin or cocaine or anything on the street in New Zealand at that time. I don't understand how a drug like cannabis can lead to that much deterioration over that short period of time.
Yeah, I think it depends on how much you have, really. How much you have and what your gene makeup is.
So you think it's physiologically...
Yeah, I think it's the volume you have and what your genes are,
How your body processes
Yeah.
it.
Hey, we had to take a little bit of a short break because Rusty's got a Woolworths platter.
Wee-wees.
Thank you for telling us that story. I know sometimes it's hard to recount that stuff, but I think it was definitely something that we needed to discuss because I wanted to understand how you felt about the day and leading up to that, and of course your training, as you say. Did you well? I think we want to lift the mood a little bit,
Do some funnies.
We were talking about earlier on the piece about how long we've been together. Not together. How long we've been friends.
Oh, we're going back to that.
Yeah, 45 years. Yeah, 45 years from young kids. We went to school together. We played soccer together.
Yep.
We sort of went our separate ways after school. I mean, I was probably the first one to go try to gain my independence.
You had to go and do that extra reading class too, just to help catch up.
Thanks, man. No, look, school was never fun for me. There was a period there, and I talked about it with Mum and Dad. It was just a time for me to go, and I think all I was trying to do was seek my independence and grow up.
Yeah. I was just going to say you were very stubborn, focused, and school wasn't for you. And would you leave at 15?
Focused. I wouldn't agree with focused. I'd agree with stubborn, and it was more of.
Or you weren't focused for school.
Just wasn't the direction.
School wasn't you.
anyway.
No, you're probably exactly right. Yeah, I had my eye on the prize. I didn't really know what it was, but anything that I was going to do, like I do now, give it 100%.
Yeah.
And as I say to Mav, if you're going to do it properly, or don't bother doing it at all.
100%. That's how it should be.
And that's why I've got what I've got, and I'm proud to say that everything I've got, I've earned. I've worked for.
And
So-
we survived in business together.
We did. We've done a lot, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Which is good.
We're still talking, which is good.
Really, we're talking about business. I'm really proud about that. My career generally has been focused predominantly on me, and that opportunity that we got to work together was looking back, and it's really satisfying to go, well, look what we achieved.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes I think back, and for all those listening, me and Brendan were in business for a year with another friend, and before Brendan decided he wanted out to do other things, and I often think even today that if we'd stayed in there, where would the business be today, because you were very focused on growing and moving fast and pushing us out of our comfort zone, and I was probably a little bit more conservative in business.
That's fair enough, because you hadn't been in business, and what makes me satisfied is that I had the knowledge that I had. A lot of it was self-taught, and I'd made a bit of a success with what I'd done, and for me to bestow that knowledge on you, and for us to work together for a common cause, that's what's satisfying in business for me, is setting a goal, achieving that, and then going on to the next project.
Yeah.
And achieving that and getting better and doing better. And as I said before, it's not about it's never been about the money for me in business. I've put a lot of people through apprenticeships. I've paid a lot of people's mortgages. I've given them opportunities. Some opportunities they didn't realise they had, and that's what's satisfying for me. And out of my business career is 30 years long now, and I look back on the stuff that I've achieved, and sometimes it never sunk in at the time, but now I go, yeah, I'm really satisfied that happened.
Oh, you should be proud of what you've done. Like you say, you're self-taught. Look at this. I don't even know what we're doing today. I can't believe what you've come up with. It's a credit to you.
Yeah, and if the listeners out there could actually see what we're looking at in this whole studio is really impressive. If you came for a walkthrough, you'd be super impressed, because like Glenn said, we both came in going, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and as I was explaining earlier, this whole project's been in my head for 6 months. Everything I do, and the great skill I have, is I can visualise everything in my head, and that's exactly how it plays out, which is a good skill to have. And
definitely.
That's exactly what's happened here. So I'm really proud about this. I'm really looking forward to showing everybody tomorrow night at the launch, at the opening. I'm really happy and proud for you guys to be sitting here and doing this with me. It's probably going to be one of the first podcasts that'll go to market.
It's quite an honour actually to be invited. To do this. There's obviously lots of people in your life that you could have got to come and have a chat, and it's us.
Way smarter and better looking than us.
Yeah.
Well, to be quite honest, I probably wouldn't pick anybody else. You guys are here. We've all got stories to tell, and it's good. I'm really proud.
So Breno's Renos, that's a no-go?
No, Breno's Renos. No, it sounds like a lot of hard work. Although, when you think about it, basically Breno's Renos did this: the wallpaper, the ceiling panels, the painting. Unfortunately, our painter let us down, so Brendo had to get on the tools, unfortunately. But thanks to everybody else that was involved. Obviously, it was a team effort. But where it's going to go, who knows? It's an adventure.
Yeah.
So where now? What's the next lot of podcasts? What's on the plans?
Well, as I said, LUID's about lifestyle. It's about living a better life. So we want to talk to people with stories to tell about living a better life. Health, fitness, travel. I want to get some dude in here, that dude/female, lady, him, her, there, them, there, talk about alcohol. I want to find the best whiskey, and I want to know why it's the best whiskey, and stuff like that. Stuff that's going to enhance my life and make it better.
Yeah,
it's a simple ethos, and there's a lot of people in a broad scope that I want to have sitting here like you guys, telling stories or bestowing their knowledge on me. I want to ask the questions that people don't normally ask.
Yeah, and I know that's going to happen because after knowing you all these years, I know that if you say you're going to do something, you just do it. And there's actually not many people out there that will say, okay, this is what I want to do, and do it. And a lot of people have excuses for whatever.
We've got a saying, all hooey and no doey.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, as I said earlier, I don't like to spout about stuff. I don't like to be the guy that's always going, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Because if for some reason it doesn't happen, you know, I don't want to disappoint people and ultimately disappoint myself. Because as you say, once I've got something in my head, I want to see it out. And it's about riding that journey. And along that journey, you're going to learn some stuff, you're going to make some mistakes, and you're going to learn from those mistakes. And I think through my whole career, self-taught, because I'm stubborn, because sometimes I don't want to be told what to do, I can learn the hard way, and I'll learn the errors of that. I'll learn the errors of my way, but I'm not going to make the same mistake.
Which is good, because a lot of people do.
Yeah, and that's where you look at people. Sometimes you go, so you've done the same thing twice and you've got the same result, and you still don't understand what happens.
Yeah, it's a definition of insanity. It's doing the same thing and thinking you're going to get a different result.
Exactly. So exciting times ahead, and I'm sure we'll get you guys back a couple more times. It's a good excuse to come over and.
I think you need to get a lady in, because I want to know how to fold a fitted sheet. I still can't do it. How do you fold a fitted sheet?
Is there a YouTube video on folding fitted sheets, Mav?
Yeah, I'll pop that
Look,
up
I'm
right
sure.
now.
Here we go. How to fold a fitted sheet, presented by Living. Oh,
Hi, I'm Jill Cooper from
Another one.
livingonadime.com. One of the biggest challenges you're going to face in your life is how to fold a fitted sheet.
See, people have asked
So
the
today
question.
I'm going to try to show you how to do that. First of all, why bother to fold your sheets? Let me show you.
You've just lost a whole lot of viewers.
We store our storage in our closet. And so by folding it, you can double your storage space instantly.
Look
I
how
have an
tidy that
example
is.
here. Here's unfolded, here's folded. The amount of time it takes.
I like the fire in the background. That's a nice touch.
The doily
Oh,
on
the
top
doily on the
of the
mantelpiece.
mantelpiece.
Or is it just easier to get a bigger cupboard?
Well, she's talking about storage. I say get bigger cupboards and just chuck them in there.
The right side towards your body. Place corner number 1, folded
For anybody just listening,
slide
she's
down
taken
this edge,
both the right corners and she's stuffing the other one into them.
slide down this edge,
Oh,
pick up corner
And to
4.
be honest, it's not that interesting.
No,
all right, man. That's
I
enough.
think we need to move
That
on.
was it.
Shit, boring.
You've just lost.
Sorry
the
to do
Asahi
that,
sponsorship.
guys.
Let's turn that off.
Back to
Wow.
toilet brushes.
Wow, that
Yeah.
was
You
that
know,
was good, Glenn. Yeah.
You know, when Glenn gets home, he's going to search up that video again
Yeah.
and watch it in its entirety.
I think you should do a YouTube video
My
of
own
folding,
podcast.
Yeah, folding the fitted sheet.
Better living, everybody.
Hey, so 50 years in, have you guys got a highlight? You got a highlight reel? What's your best achievement or your biggest achievement in your 50 years so far? If there was one thing, could you pick it?
No, I couldn't.
No. Probably for me, having a son, and then meeting all the people that come along with that. Just a different group of friends. Obviously getting married and stuff, but there's been lots of different things that have been highlights, but nothing specific.
I think
I mean, this is up there. Today's
right
up
here
there.
today.
Yeah.
Well, this is legendary,
Yeah,
mate.
I love this sort of stuff.
No, I'm
You're a
thinking-
natural.
I'm not a whiskey drinker, but I think I might have to study up a bit of whiskey and do a few drinks and come back and do the whiskey one.
You're
Hey, what do you
more than
think?
wel-
What do
you're
you
more
think?
than welcome.
I'll
I think
do
you
the
can
gin one.
you can sit with the expert and we'll just sample it out.
Yeah.
Probably for me, I'm going to say Mav, my son. I was never going to have children. I grew up not wanting kids, and I think for me personally, it was about not having to be responsible for something else, and something else that's, when you think about it, so fragile. A growing child, a baby, and everything goes with that. So for me personally, that's probably up there, up the top. I think also the travel. Best thing I ever did was jump on a plane and leave New Zealand, and all the travel I did after that period. And travelling alone, travelling by myself. Best way to travel. Best way to go out, meet people, go to places where you normally wouldn't go, have the conversations that you normally wouldn't have. And that's true travelling. You know, going down the back roads, going to a restaurant that doesn't have English, eating something that you don't know you're eating, or eating something you've never eaten before. Like
All three of us are lucky. I mean, all three of us would have done 30 plus countries each, you know.
Yeah, you got to travel.
I feel
Definitely.
sorry for people that don't leave their own country.
Yeah.
Missing out on so much. Culture, food, sights.
Yeah. It is, as you say, it's sad that those people can live their life without experiencing.
But they don't know what they're missing.
No.
That's the thing.
And you know, I don't think you can. You know, if people out there listening think, oh, I'll retire. You know, when I retire, I'll travel.
It's not a certainty.
Don't do that because you might not make it, and you might not be fit enough to walk because whenever you travel, you do a lot of walking.
Exactly. Well, my mum and dad are just getting to their 80s, and same thing. Their plans and their travel plans work around their mobility and what they can and can't do.
You got to play as you go through life. You know, you got to do things. Don't make excuses. Just do them.
That's another T-shirt, man.
Yeah.
That's going to be on the web store. Yeah, exactly. You know, just get out there and do it. Take the opportunities.
And remember, hey,
What?
anything worthwhile is never easy.
That's a T-shirt too.
Life,
Oh,
business,
it might be getting
relationships,
a bit
whatever.
cheesy, that one.
No, that's good, mate. That's live your life by that.
So we talked about highlights. What was yours, Rusty? Do we have anything in particular that comes to mind?
No, well, I mean, you know, obviously having my
You have to say
children's
kids
up
and
there.
wife now because we've said it. I mean, you're going to look bad if we don't. If we
Yeah,
don't.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I've got lots of highlights, but yeah, it's actually quite a tough question.
Well-
But I try and I'll fulfill my life daily. Really, I mean, I'm always looking for that next goal. That actually, that's another thing. You know, people out there, you need goals. You'll never get anywhere if you don't have a goal. And so, you know, I've always got goals, and I'm always focusing on those goals, and you know,
Well, it's like deadlines, isn't it?
yeah,
You've got to
break
set
down
deadlines.
steps, and
Otherwise, nothing's going to happen.
No,
You know,
no.
There's no reason to finish or do anything if you don't have a deadline.
yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people go through life without goals, and whatever that is, whether it's sport, business, life in general, you've just got to have goals, and otherwise you won't get anywhere. You just fluff around and move in circles.
I find it hard to believe that people are happy or content with not doing the best that they can do, or not aspiring to be better, or to do something better like a skill.
But again, it goes back to not knowing what you don't know. It's what they know. You know, they don't know they're missing out.
And we talking that comes all the way back to childhood and your upbringing. It's the environment. I mean, everybody's a product of their environment. We know that. Are we saying that it all stems from their upbringing?
I don't buy that. You know, you make your own luck in this world. You can be whatever you want to be. You know, I know it's
Yeah, you
hard when
can.
you have a tough upbringing, but you can still make those choices. You know,
Oh,
It's harder.
100%
It's
you
harder.
can. But I also think, you know, your upbringing does affect how you think. I mean, you see it in society all the time, you know, the third generation unemployed, and you might get, you know, 1 out of 100 that breaks the cycle. But
Well, it's those habits that are created that never get broken. You know, it's like teenage pregnancy. It's a habit that will keep on reoccurring because that's what they know. That's all they know. But as we said, that's for them. That's totally fine. That's just the way.
it's the norm.
Yeah, I know. It's the mentality I have is to always want to do and be better, and as you say, if you do that on a daily or weekly basis, and you're adding value to your life, isn't that the idea of living a fulfilled life?
oh, definitely, you only get one shot at it, so you got to make the most of it. It actually astounds me the amount of people that waste their lives, you know, getting into drugs or not having a fulfillment in either career, whether they work for someone or have their own business. And, you know, some people just have no
drive, eh?
Yeah, no.
Do we all
anything.
agree? Do
It's-
we all agree that life's hard?
Oh, 100% it is.
Yeah,
You can make it harder.
we're all on the same.
People
Except,
make
well, you
life
can.
hard for
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah, yeah. You've got to look at some people and go, why are you making your existence harder than what it should be?
So if you go to your grandmother's 30th birthday party, you've gone down the wrong track.
You've done the math on it.
Russell's like,
I'm cringing a bit on that one, actually, to be honest.
you've seen it.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so we talked about highlights. Obviously in your career you've had a bit of adversity. Personally, what's the most adversity you've faced in your life?
Oh, tough questions. All on camera. Jeez.
Questions without notice are the
Getting
best
deep.
ones.
I mean,
Getting deep.
Well, this is what we do here. This is what we try to get.
I mean, I think I've had adversity all my life, and I just take it on my stride and set my goals and carry on. You know, life is up and down. You
Is
will
there
have
ever-
good times, you will have bad times. You know, that's just life.
Has there been a low point where you've understood how low it is? Like you've said, man,
Yep, I have. Yep, definitely. Yep. Am I going to talk about it today? No, but yep, definitely. Yeah, but again, that's life. You know, that's just how it is.
what about you, Glenn?
oh, I'm the same. There's things that have happened, but I can't talk about them, or I don't want to talk about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've all had to deal with it. Yeah, it's how you get through it, and I mean, going back to Russell's story, I wasn't in that siege, but I knew Russell. So the minute it happened, I'm like, shit, I know someone in the AOS. We've got other friends that are police officers as well that have been through some pretty bad things.
Yep.
And
Did you pick up the phone?
I couldn't, unfortunately, because he was in hospital. But yeah, so there's and lots of friends have had issues, whether it be mental health or sickness. But it's why it's important to talk to your friends.
Yeah,
Pick
exactly.
up the phone, go and see someone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, and about mental illness and suicide prevention. Sometimes nobody knows what's happening, and they don't see the signs. And nowadays, people are made aware to look for those signs. And one of those messages is just pick up the phone and have a chat. Just check in. And just see how they're going.
Thing is,
Have-
these days it's not uncool to talk about your feelings.
No.
10 years ago, you'd be told to harden up, or your mates would take the piss out of you. I don't think they would now. Well, we certainly wouldn't. I think we're a bit more caring. Maybe it's because we've got older. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you want to hope you get a little bit wiser and a little bit
I think so.
as you get older. But definitely the commentary around it is better now. About
Oh, yeah,
just
it's
reaching
talked
out.
about. It wasn't.
Reaching out and
It wasn't
talking
talked about back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just didn't do it.
No, even in the workplace, there's a lot of support. There's a lot of things you can do, which is great.
Yep.
With work's tough, and then you throw COVID on top of it, then you get someone that's sick or has issues.
Okay,
It
well,
just compounds.
Let's touch on COVID, because you guys had a same but different experience to what we had in Melbourne. We had some really harsh lockdowns. Luckily for me, I was able to work through it. There's a lot of people still reeling from the trauma of being locked down and everything that was associated with that. How did you? Obviously, you were working through it.
Yeah,
how did it
I was
affect-
lucky enough, being in my own business and supplying. So back in New Zealand, it was
You're an essential business. You
if
could
you're in
operate.
if you're in
Same with me.
essential service, you could
Yep.
you could operate, and that definitely helped. It's still pretty rough because you weren't.
Well, there's the uncertainty of
Yeah,
what's going to happen. isn't there?
definitely the uncertainty was a shocker, but not having the income that you're used to, but your bills are still the same. That was all very stressful, and not knowing what was going to happen. And like I say, I was in a business that could still operate in those times. I really felt for the people that had to shut down. Or your hospitality industry, those guys, tourism, man, they suffered hard, and they still are, to be honest. It's a long haul to try and get out of that. The amount of people that lost their livelihoods, their retirement, the suicide rate that was just through the roof.
Well, and that wasn't talked about. What's shitty about the whole scenario is that they would constantly talk about the numbers of COVID infections and deaths related to COVID. They never mention anything about suicide rates,
No.
which fucking rocketed.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, we're not going to talk about that. And that was really frustrating.
Yeah.
As you say, there was a lot of guys committing suicide because their businesses had failed. Because of COVID and because of the government shutting them down. I think a lot of things that happened were knee-jerk reactions. I think it probably could have been handled completely differently, knowing what we know now. But there was no playbook on it. There was no, here's what you do in a pandemic. But the trauma, as you say, that continues to this day, and people trying to get their businesses and their lives back on track. And it's good to see it in the rear vision mirror, after, 2 years?
Yeah.
It's not in our rear vision mirror yet in New Zealand. I don't think. You guys are probably maybe 3 months ahead of us.
So what's the climate around COVID in New Zealand today?
People are just completely over it. Completely over it.
Have you got government restrictions in place?
Yeah, there are.
What are those?
Masks.
You still got mandatory masks outdoors?
And no, not outdoors in certain shops, but not in a restaurant or a pub. Well, you have to walk into a restaurant with a mask on. The minute you sit down, start eating or drinking, off it comes.
That's
crazy.
Excuse me. That is fucking ridiculous, isn't it?
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's completely fucking batshit crazy, And these people, and all these people that were living. We had some friends through COVID that were scared shitless. Not scared shitless about getting COVID. Scared shitless about doing something where they would be fined by the government for doing that. $1,500 fines for not wearing a mask. It was probably $200 for not wearing a mask on the street. And these guys were fearful of that, and that was hard to watch. It was hard to watch. I mean, and it was quite frustrating because it meant that they pulled away from the relationship that we had, and it got awkward. I was very blasé about the whole mask thing. As you'd expect I would be.
Yeah.
And these guys wouldn't touch you, wouldn't shake hands, would always be masked up, even at the beach outside walking our dogs. And it was hard to watch.
Yeah.
But that was their choice. It was their choice. And they had to work from home, like a lot of people did.
It was actually a bit of a breath of fresh air coming to Australia and say walking into a mall and you didn't have to worry about a mask.
It's surreal, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's weird.
Coming into the airport, we got through out of customs, and we're in the arrivals area. It's like, shit, is that it?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I think the worst affected through that whole period here were the kids. When they had to homeschool,
Yep.
they couldn't see their friends.
Yeah, it was pretty tough on them. And they didn't, let's face it, they didn't really learn at home as they would have at school with all the distractions.
But the fear and the anxiety that they then had to deal with because of it, that's not something that you just snap out of. I mean, there's still kids now, that are fearful and anxious about certain situations, and that sort of stuff, that's not cool. You've got this generation of kids that have just been a little bit fucked up because of that.
Yeah, definitely.
How did Quinn handle it?
It was tough. Well, I work from home, so I was there. I'll be honest, he spent a lot of time on the PlayStation. I mean, we didn't go through the lockdowns that Auckland did. We had our first one and then a couple of mini ones, so it wasn't too bad for us. So we got off pretty light. But
you imagine months that we had to endure.
Yeah. We didn't have to endure that at all.
Yep. Yeah, we were lucky where we were. I mean, say in New Zealand, Auckland, I mean, they suffered.
Yeah.
And they still are,
Yeah.
Man, that affects the whole country. Auckland's a bigger city by far. And man, they got hammered like unbelievably, and just like Melbourne.
Yep, exactly.
And it's still going on. That effect is still rocking the whole country, you know.
With regards to what's the word I'm trying to think about the quarantining. That's what I'm trying to say. The mistakes that were made there, and the promises that were made by governments about and all the mistakes, like the hotel quarantine. You heard about the hotel quarantine over here, and it was just a complete fucking schmozzle.
Yeah, no, I hadn't heard about it over here. I know it was back home.
Yeah, and they didn't have an area that they could dedicate to quarantine people. You know, obviously the air travel stopped, which shut that down. But the people coming into the country from other countries that had higher infection rates, obviously they've got to quarantine. They did it back in the 1800s off the ships quite easily here in Victoria. But the government promised a centre that was never built, or if it did get built, I'm pretty sure it did, is sitting there now vacant, doing nothing.
Oh, wow.
Probably waiting for we'll be right for the next pandemic. What have we got? We've got monkey fuck pox, or is it monkey, what's the next, monkey pox or something? You know?
Yeah, it's monkeypox.
Monkeypox.
But I haven't heard that much.
Have you heard about monkeypox?
Yeah, I've seen monkeypox.
Yeah. Hey, look, I mean, we've done really well. I've always said that good guests have got at least an hour and a half in them. We could talk longer. Before we leave, though, what's on the horizon for you guys personally? Have we got any goals, any aspirations? We're on the other side of COVID. I mean, we all want to do more travelling. Individually, what have you got? What have you got to aspire to?
Well, I've got a few things, in the business that I'm working on at the moment, and I don't want to say too much there, but if that all pays off, things will be good. But that could open up a whole other topic in manufacturing. I don't know if you want to go down that track.
Well, I think that's another podcast for sure. I mean, you've got a lot of things to talk about. You know?
Yeah.
That's good.
That's a whole other.
So you're pivoting and you're going down a slightly different route.
Yeah. I think 100 years ago we had our industrial revolution, and I think we're into that next phase now.
Oh, definitely.
The next part of it.
Well, if you look at the relationships that government have with China now, there should be a lot more local manufacturing going on, and it should be encouraged by governments.
Yeah.
Because as you say, it's just over the course of the period, it's just dwindled off. And there's a lot of stuff that doesn't get manufactured in countries anymore.
No, and things are going to change. With the shipping costs, worldwide. Things have got to change, and there will be more in-house manufacturing in each country, So traditionally New Zealand, Australia and others will buy things out of China, and it's going to come back to the home countries.
What about you, Glenn?
Oh, look, I just want to get back to normal. COVID work-wise is still affecting us, quite greatly. So I think we're another 12, 18 months away before things start to settle down in terms of, as Russell said, shipping and other bits and pieces.
Well, for you personally, with what you do, shipping's a major part of your daily chores, not chores, your daily business.
Yeah.
Can you explain to me and the listeners what the fuck happened with shipping? There was a container shortage?
Oh, so look, when COVID hit, there was this big panic. Ships were broken down for steel. People thought that shipping was going to stop because no one was moving around the world. And then you had people online shopping. So when you online shop, what do? You buy something from China. How's it going to get here? It's going to come in a container. So all of a sudden, there's this massive pressure on container shipping. There's ports struck down with COVID related staff shortages. There's been all these big backlogs. So people just can't get anything from overseas, and countries like Australia and New Zealand rely on imports.
Of course.
So, when that is your sole job, if you can't get anything to sell, you haven't got anything to sell. So it's affected a lot of people. And I think it's going to take probably another couple of years for that to settle down. And I think, then people can get some sort of normality back into life. Things will get cheaper.
Well, talking about cheaper and shipping costs, obviously they're going through the roof. In my experience, when things go up, they very rarely come back down. Are you factoring in future budgets that shipping is going to reduce in cost, or are you quite happy to accept that what is the norm now is going to be the norm going forward?
Well, the problem is shipping's part of your cost, so you have to build that in. So your costs are what they are. So you can't foresee what's going to happen. So until shipping costs start to drop, nothing's going to get cheaper.
But can you see the shipping costs dropping?
It will, but it'll never get back to what it was 3 years ago. It'll drop, but it'll never get back to the levels that we saw, in 2019, 2020.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, nothing's ever going to be as cheap as it was 3 years ago, I don't think.
No.
No, I totally agree.
And there will be things, and it's already happening, that you can now no longer buy because it's too expensive to get them here. Certain, say, large items that you can fit X amount in a container, but they're low value items, they'll no longer be available because the shipping's just blowing them out of the water. It costs more to ship it than the product's worth.
Yeah,
So-
and we have that problem at the moment. We're selling stuff where the freight is a bigger component than the cost of the product.
Yeah.
Freight's gone up,
It's pretty
what,
scary.
150, 200% minimum across the board.
Oh, look, when you've got containers going from $500 a container to $6,500 a container,
Oh, that's even...
it's massive.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Hey, look, on that note, I think we'll probably leave it. Thank you very much once again for having this experience with us. It's documented now, so you can't undo it.
Excellent.
We'll edit out the bad bits and make sure that everybody hears and sees the good bits. So thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
Now, look, well done. It's a credit to you. And I look forward to listening to a few more podcasts. I'm very unpodcast savvy, so
Mate,
it's something I've got to learn.
Yeah, look, put them on in the car, put them on when you're on the treadmill. I'm not saying I've got the best dulcet tones, but hey, if I've got something interesting to say and somebody wants to listen to it, good on them. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
That's a wrap, Mav.
Thanks,
Yep.
Rob. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in and for your time. You know the vibe, I'm steady living until I die. It's a LUID state of mind, and we showed you that. Keep it authentic and real, I hope you coming back. Hey, make sure that you subscribe, cause we got it popping all the time, man, it's going down. If you wanna elevate, wanna live a better life, keep it locked here. You know it's a LUID state of mind, let's go.